Guys, I have a confession to make. I don't really like Zyuranger. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I mean, I don't hate it either. It certainly has its moments of being really cool and really fun and pretty heartfelt, but I don't know, man. I think I got a bit too spoiled by Jetman and Kamen Rider to really enjoy this one. And I will say that this isn't entirely on the show itself, because I do acknowledge that this season just is not really for me. Of course, Sentai is mostly a kids thing. It's always gonna be a kids thing. Kids and teens, that's what it's for. And I mean, I'm a 20-year-old man, but I do think this season in particular kind of leans further back from the teen appeal and more to the baby appeal, because this season is seriously just some baby shit, okay? So with that, I'd probably enjoy this show a lot more if I was, a kid, but I'm not a kid anymore. I don't watch kids shows. I watch shows for men, like Cardcaptor Sakura. But I do have to admit that this show kind of starts out pretty great. The first episode tosses you into this new world completely different from Jetman, with way cooler mechs, a way cooler base, and way more vibrant and stylish settings. I mean, dinosaurs are just cooler than military birds, obviously, so this should be a banger already. And, it was at first. See, the first episode is a really strong introduction to the story, and the Zyurangers pop out very well in terms of style. However, that was the first red flag for me, because really, outside of Geki, our Red Ranger, I noticed something about the Zyurangers pretty early on. Absolutely none of these characters have any seriously defining character traits to them that make them stand out from one another. Like, sure, you know what their roles are, kind of. I'm still figuring that one out. And they aren't entirely copy-pasted from one another, but they're all kind of just sideways. I don't know if that's the right word. They're just kind of useless half the time. You see this in the first few episodes because Geki is almost always bailing the rest of the team out of trouble, because none of them are that competent enough to do anything on their own or even as a unit without the Red Ranger. I get that he's the leader and he's supposed to be the glue piece of them all, but there are few moments where any Zyuranger that is not Geki is actually a standout in the story. Sure, sometimes the other Rangers will get their own episode focused on themselves, but they're usually fillerish episodes that don't tie in all too well to the main storyline. Whenever we're focused on the extremely important stuff, the only person who's really developing is Geki, whilst everyone else is kinda just on the sidelines. And that's a shame, because I really wanted to like these guys, but I cannot for the life of me tell you anything intriguing about Boy or Dan. Mei and Goshi sometimes get some light every episode, now and again, but all that kinda gets killed once Burai gets introduced, since damn near every episode after his introduction is focused on him and Geki. And I don't necessarily hate that, because Burai is honestly the biggest highlight of the show. The Green Ranger's arc was by far the most interesting part, but his inclusion in the series does kind of hinder the rest of the team, because he makes them look like even more of background characters. I don't want to make too many comparisons to Jetman, because I think it's unfair, and it's pretty premature of me to compare this to the only other Sentai season I've finished, but looking back at it, they did the formula perfectly. Every Jetman came from a different background with a different personality, so they all had far different perspectives from one another on the way the world is, which helped how they meshed together as a team, because they really didn't get along that well. In Zyuranger, everyone comes from the same background and seems to be good friends before we're even introduced to them. We get little backstory on their tribes despite that being a cool concept, and they adapt to modern life pretty much instantly. Like, it would have been cool to see these prehistoric warriors trying to learn and struggle to fit into a world they're completely unfamiliar with, but they act like they've always lived like this from the moment they wake up. Like, I'm not gonna complain about the logistics of someone from the Stone Age knowing what a desk pad is, but you could have done something with this, anything, but they don't. It would have been a cool way to introduce outlets for them to adapt to new culture, but the most that really happens is like one of them gets a job for a bit, they hang out with kids and old people sometimes, and that's the full extent of it. I mean, come on. And again, my first impression with Jetman definitely hurts my experience of this a lot because everything just feels like a lesser version of that. I mean, even the mentor figure is kind of useless. He just sits and reads every episode just to give the Rangers a random piece of information every once in a while. He doesn't actually do anything interesting until the very last episode. Alright, I'm a Barza hater. I don't care. This guy's lame. Jetman also had a real personal tension between the Vyram and the Jetman from the very beginning thanks to the Rie storyline, which gave Ryu and the Jetman a serious reason to not like these guys and avenge the loved ones that they lost. There is really nothing personal between Bandora and the Zyurangers. It's like the relationship between a Twitter troll and a fandom. She just fucks with them for the sake of it. You don't actually know what her motivation is until the very final arc of the series, and because of that, they really rush the hell out of it, so it's difficult to care. I think Bandora and her gang was fun and all, very campy and entertaining, and I liked watching them battle for the sake of it being entertaining, but outside of that, they're just kind of nothing burgers. This whole season is kind of a nothing burger. Nothing ever happens here. Now, look, I don't hate this show, alright? I don't. It has its moments. There were definitely some episodes that I really enjoyed. Definitely never as much as Jetman's best episodes, but still some great moments. I'll also say that the set design and action in this show are a big improvement from Jetman. The final fights there were certainly more compelling, but just in terms of flashiness, Zyuranger has got it on lock. I really like how Daijujin, the Ranger mech, is an actual character and this big, larger-than-life figure. Not just a robot they write at the end, but no, this very important figure that they communicate and connect with. Daijujin and Dragon Caesar are honestly better characters than the Zyurangers. Okay, I'll stop talking about the Zyurangers themselves, alright? But yeah, the scale of Daijujin battles are definitely the highlight when it comes to the entertainment factor, because the battles here are extremely fun, and the multiple different transformations from Gorjujin to Ultimate Daijujin are pretty sick. I love how the Tyrannosaurus is constantly testing Geki's leadership to determine whether or not he's really worthy to lead this team, and the constant journeys they send them on to discover new things about themselves as a unit is very fun as well. With the help of Daijujin, I think it makes the Zyurangers work very well as a unit altogether. It's just when they're trying to be individual characters that they kind of start to, fall apart. This does not apply to Burai though, and this is where I give this show my biggest compliments. Burai's arc is the best part of all of this season, easily. His brotherhood with Geki, his pettiness at the beginning that slowly becomes a tender desire to help the youth of the world was a lovable arc that made you really root for the guy, and the fact that he was living on limited borrowed time elevated it for me. You could say that this plot point of him dying soon limited what his character could do, but it's the fact that he could only do so much despite being the strongest Zyuranger by far that made me so invested in him. It was pretty predictable that they weren't gonna let him survive all throughout the season, but I'm glad he lasted as long as he did, and I'm glad they didn't force him back into the narrative. Kind of. He definitely helped make Geki a better character too, because as soon as he died, I started becoming much more invested as him. He was the only Zyuranger with a significant arc to begin with, despite it not always being consistent, but the more time you spend with him, I think he becomes much more charming. Plus, Red Ranger with the Dragon Shield was awesome as hell. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, even though I don't really like this season, it's still way better than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Sorry, Ranger fans, but Sentai will always be superior, even in its lesser seasons. And honestly, I think the thing that turned me off from this season the most was its focus on children. From what I know, every Sentai kinda has its shtick with what the Rangers focus on, and in Zyuranger, they follow the Brat of the Week format, where every single episode is the Zyurangers having to help a child with something that seems trivial, yet slowly becomes a world-threatening danger. And my god, did this show make me hate kids even more than I already do. Look, I'm not trying to sound like that kind of guy, but watching 50 episodes of children being whiny, spoiled brats and nearly causing the destruction of Earth made me want to pull my hair out at times. There's one episode where a kid befriends one of Bandora's monsters and uses his powers to become as big as a kaiju and starts destroying the city with him, and then the Zyuranger stop him and his mom is like, yeah, that's right, beat my evil child for me, punish him. And the Zyurangers are just like, no ma'am, this is your fault because you're a bad mom. And she's immediately like, oh, you're so right, and everything goes back to normal. I get the sentiment, but it's too fucking hilarious. There are times where the dynamics the Zyurangers have with the kids are pretty heartwarming, such as Burai's connection with Kota in his final arc of the show, which I think was done very well and added the last bit of humanity we needed out of Burai before saying goodbye to him, but in most cases, they're just annoying. Could just be because I don't like kids, but yeah, I did not like this part of the show. So I guess I could say that this show was a bit doomed from the start for me because I just wasn't all that big into what they were going for in the little cracks. All the grand stuff with mythological focus always intrigued me because, you know, it's a show about dinosaur warriors, and everything revolving around them being dinosaur warriors was pretty fun. But whenever it was about their contemporary lives and saving children, it just felt really flat for me because it really did feel like a lot of potential to do something interesting to grow these characters was thrown away simply because it's too much work to give them all compelling arcs. Jetman did not have perfect character writing, but at least they were all different and they all grew together and on their own. This doesn't really have that. It's just missing a lot of things. And you know, I'm willing to admit that I just got spoiled by the previous season I watched. Like, I'm more than willing to admit I'm probably being too harsh, but I don't know, man. I just was not feeling this one. I'm hoping Zyuranger gives me some of that hope back. Spoiler alert, I'm 7 episodes into Zyuranger right now and I fucking love it, so, you know, we'll talk about that more in that video. But yeah, I'm really liking Zyuranger right now, way more than I was liking Zyuranger. And that's gonna do it for, you know, this review of this season. I really wanted to like it more than I ended up liking it because I know a lot of people really loved this season, but I don't know, this just wasn't my thing. But if you liked this video and want to see more Toku based reviews from me, like on Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and eventually Ultraman, then leave a like down below, comment down your favorite Zyuranger or your favorite Red Ranger, and also let me know what Sentai seasons you are excited for me to cover. I'm going in order right now, but I'm probably going to break that soon. Maybe, just because there's so many seasons and so many seasons that I want to watch, but we'll get to that later. And once again, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe. We've been growing very, very fast, way faster than I expected to once we hit 10K, and you know, I'm really thankful for that, so let's keep it going. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.